Meeting to order. Everyone should please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Glen?
Present.
Trustee Caprio?
Present.
Trustee Rogers?
Present.
Trustee Sweet?
Present.
Trustee Maxey-Turkey?
Present.
Trustee Deering? Mayor Yukich?
Present. Trustee Marion got stuck down in Springfield. Will not be at the meeting tonight. Are there any amendments to the agenda? There. I need a motion to approve the minutes of November 14th, 2019. 2018.
Second.
Okay. I'm going to abstain. This is a discussion. It says 2019. That's all right.
We're just making sure you're paying attention.
I am, sometimes. All right, any discussion on it? Good? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained, sorry, that's what I said. Minutes are passed. I need a motion for November 28th, 2018.
I so move.
Trustee Suisse?
I'll second.
Trustee Craig, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Next, going to be reports and communications. I don't have a lot, just a little bit, and we'll go on with the rest of them. The Dialysis Care Center completed a major renovation of the former Midwest Bank building on Bell Road and is now operating in its new corporate headquarters from this building. About 15 employees are now working in the new corporate headquarters. Their plan is to eventually ramp up to full capacity of about 90 employees in this location. We anticipate that the area restaurants and businesses will benefit from the new employees in the area, and the village welcomes the new Dialysis Care Center headquarters. Second, Dollar Tree store update. The grand opening for the new Dollar Tree store on 143rd and Bell will be Saturday, January 12th. Dollar Tree will be the first retailer to open in the new Homer Glen Bell Plaza development. Village Hall has received many phone calls from residents who are looking forward to a new Dollar Tree store. That will go to the trustees, and we'll start down by Trustee Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention tonight. First of all, everybody in the audience and the dais can see the sign in the room that Drive Like Your Children Live Here. We've ordered some new signs, and we're going to start deploying some of those around the village. Second thing is that the pedestrian crossing lights on Parker have been installed with flashing lights. There's still a few more signs to go over there as well. The ones that right at the point of crossing. And I just wanted to say that the coat drive finished up on December 28th, and it was a success. I talked to the woman from the Salvation Army, and she wanted to reach out and say thanks to everybody in the village.
Thank you very much. Trustee Tree. Trustee Rogers. Trustee Suisse.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Environment Committee. One of our committee members brought in an article that appeared in the December 21st edition of a magazine called The Week. Homer Glen was mentioned on their travel page, next to articles on Italy, the Connecticut Art Trail, the Silk Road by rail, etc. The night sky has become a tourist destination, said Terry Colby in the Chicago Tribune, but light pollution is so rampant, many rarely see the grandeur of our galaxy. It is hard to see the stars near major cities, but the article stated that he found 2 Chicago suburbs that limit light pollution, which is Homer Glen along with Beverly Shores in Indiana. And that is what community and nature and harmony is supposed to be about. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Suisse. Trustee Caprio.
Reporting on behalf of the festival committee, just to reiterate, our fest is we're underway in planning, June 20th through June 23rd. We have many hurdles to tackle with the new location here at the Village Hall, but we'll be working towards those goals and making sure that we get everything arranged and set up so that the community can enjoy its festival as we have done for the past at least 10 years. So more to report as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Caprio. Next, John's not here. Are you going to do the treasurer's report? Okay. Village clerk? Okay. Village attorney?
No report tonight, Mayor.
Sir. Public safety officials?
No report, Mayor.
Hello, Lieutenant. How are you?
Sir.
Good to see you. Village manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one item. I had notified the mayor and the board over the holidays that I will be leaving my position here in Homer Glen. My last day would be January 18th, and I wanted to thank the board, thank the village president, thank the staff and the community. It's been my utmost privilege serving Homer Glen these past 4 months, and I just wanted the community to be aware of it and to thank you publicly that you've been fantastic to work with, and I really appreciate the opportunity you provided me. So thank you.
You feel the same way. Thank you. Okay. All right, next would be public comment. Do you have anyone signed in? Wayne? How are you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wayne Felgenhauer, and I'm a resident of Homer Glen. First of all, I'd like to say Happy New Year to all of you, and then especially to the trustees, thank you for your service, because I know it's intended to be a thankless job. I've only got one question, and I just found out the regular village attorney isn't here, so I don't know if you can answer this question.
I don't know if I can either, but give it a shot.
In reference to Mitch Mawarka, I understand that he's going to be going back into court to try, the village is going to be going back into court trying to get him to comply with the ordinance. And my question is, you know, why hasn't the attorney gone back into court after he was denied his various appeals and asked the court to write a contempt citation?
I can't answer the question for you, but I will have an answer, or Eric Hansen, who's my law partner, will have an answer for the board at the next meeting.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's the only question I had. Thank you.
Joe, maybe you can, Joe Weaver
I'm
probably
meeting
answer.
again, I had mentioned in this morning,
Oh, okay.
that I'm meeting with Eric again next Monday, and we'll be discussing that matter per the direction of the board moving forward. And I will contact Glen directly and give him an update at that time. Yep.
Thank you.
Can I mention one other thing? I noticed on the agenda is you're talking about taking down the fence around Heritage Park. I like to walk there all the time with my dog, and I noticed that the fence does keep out some animals, but I notice also that some animals do get in, and I'm just, you know, throwing that out for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. And then public comments, legislation and action items. First on, is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of December 13th, 2018 through January 10th, 2019 in the amount of $972,890.29?
I so move.
Trustee Caprio?
Second.
Trustee Gray, discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Markey-Trarky?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Second, school choice week proclamation. Is there a motion to approve the attached proclamation designating January 20th through 26th, 2019 as school choice week in the village of Homer Glen?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
A second.
trustee Turkey, discussion. Okay, what I'll do is I'm going to read the proclamation. Well, actually, I guess we should, let me read the proclamation so you know exactly what the proclamation is about. Proclamation designating January 20th through 26th, 2019 as School Choice Week in the Village of Homer Glen. Whereas all children in the Village of Homer Glen should have access to the highest quality education possible. And the Village of Homer Glen recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in Homer Glen to be successful adults, and quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of Homer Glen. And Homer Glen is home to a multitude of excellent education options from which parents can choose for the children. And our area has many high-quality teaching professionals who are committed to educating our children. And School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective education options. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Board of Trustees in the Village of Homer Glen that the week of January 20th through 26th, 2019 is designated as School Choice Week in the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, dated this 9th day of January 2019. So just making sure our kids go to school where they want to and get the education they deserve. And I guess I'll buy you for roll call on that. So, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Markey-Trarky?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next would be installation of traffic calming signage to be determined by the Village of Homer Glen. Is there a motion to approve the installation of traffic calming signage at various locations to be determined in the Village of Homer Glen?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
A second.
trustee Rogers, discussion?
Well, I just have a quick question, Mayor. It says the safety committee recommended the purchase and installation of these signs. They have, this is just a sample of one of them that's going to be put up? Or
Is that a-
how is it, right?
That's a mock-up.
Are you going to pick all of these? I mean, it's kind of gaudy.
The, I think that, is that the larger of the two sizes that were available?
They're all pretty much the same size.
And they have to be that color, they can't be right, because they're only a recommendation.
Like a caution.
I can't remember exactly what they call that type of sign.
It's got like notification sign.
Notifications.
Oh, I see.
So that is just a mock-up. The debate that we had before was to order, was it 16?
16
For
signs.
each of the four versions.
Correct.
For each of the four different versions, and then placing them around the village. And those don't have to be installed on, the radars that we frequently move around the village. Those are on like 8x8 posts that are something around, or 6x6. These can go on regular U channel like a stop sign. So
And then it will be permanently placed. They're not going to be moving around like the radar. These are going to be permanent wherever they're at.
they can be moved around. You can leave the U channel where it's at, unbolt the sign and move to another area as you need, more effectiveness, and then maybe bring them back to those areas.
One of the things that we found is we get continuous complaints from certain areas in the community, and so we'll probably get some feedback from the residents that have indicated that there's speeding occurring on their street after these signs have been posted, see if they are effective. as well as putting up additional radars when the weather permits and monitor traffic speed at that time as well. We probably have about a little over half a dozen locations currently that are continuously indicate speeding occurs at those locations.
You said 4 of each, but this is 2 of each.
Well, if you were to double that invoice,
Yeah.
it'd be 16 signs.
Yeah,
This
that's $1,200 also, I think the request.
After the initial bid came in from the highway department, the committee had discussed it, and we indicated, or it was indicated that we could use 16 signs instead of the 8. So that was what the
So
recommendation was.
this proposal is only for 8, but you're requesting for 16.
Correct.
Is one of these signs going to be placed on 163rd and Cedar? I would like.
I don't know.
It can be put on the list.
That's why I was
Actually,
asking.
that's one of our roads. I think that may be, I don't have to check on that, county road, right?
Okay, just curious.
That'll be the free speeding tickets.
Yes, there we go.
Well, definitely catches attention. Same thing with traffic school is boring. The last thing I want to do is spend a weekend there.
Who came up with these?
There were, John Robinson found them from a service, but there were other ones too, weren't there? Kind of getting more pithy, if you can believe it.
These are actually signs being used in traffic calming programs around the country.
I assume.
And there was more than this that we found, and I just brought a bunch of them to the committee, and because this is like step 1 of the program was to get people's attention, because with all the things going on in the world, so what we're going to do is put these up with the radars so we can see if they're actually having an effect. People see the sign and, oh, I am speeding, and maybe slow down. So.
Can we get these signs put up before Anne Marie leaves on her last day so that we can get the free speeding tickets available at?
All right, any other discussion on it?
I was going to say this.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure, stop. Nothing. Trustee Gren.
Aye.
Trustee Gabrielle.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Sweet.
Aye.
Trustee Metzger.
Aye.
Motion carries. Public services and safety recommendations do not accept the private alley of Evelyn's Gate North subdivision. So is there a motion to approve the public service and safety committee's recommendation to not accept the private alley in Evelyn's Gate North subdivision?
I so move.
DiCaprio,
I'll second.
trustee Suisse, discussion?
Maybe Keith, you could tell us a little
Yeah, this was another item we discussed at the Public Service and Safety Committee, and this is in regards to the private alley that separates the couple of rows of townhomes in Evelyn's Gate North subdivision. Initially, it was built as a private road, and it's built on an outlot, so it was not built to village standards for road and for right-of-way and all those good things, as well as the base pavement can't be verified. So when we discussed it at the committee, the road commissioner said certainly he would not be able to take his heavy equipment down there. So he would have to probably hire an outside service to go in there and, probably use snow blowers and whatnot on it. If anybody's ever been down that alley, it's pretty narrow, and really, we've all got driveways. The road commissioner does what he can, but he puts the snow basically at the end of our driveways. This would be almost in these people's garages. So,
In their garages, and they would have to bury it in the front of somebody's house.
right. So that was, given all of those situations, it seemed like it was just better to leave it with the HOA and let them assess properly for that and take care of hiring a service.
Not only, correct me if I'm wrong, not only was snow the issue, but also safety as far as the fire trucks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Chris Locations and Todd Dunpere both mentioned that they wouldn't be able to get their equipment down those roads. They have other issues too, I think, even with the turnaround at the end on some of those things, but they wouldn't be able to get their heavier trucks down there as well.
And they're not built to specs, and if we destroy them, we're going to so.
Right, the initial specs, I think, for the road were drawn as one thing, and then it was built as another, so there really is no verification of even how it was ultimately finally built, since it was as a private road, so.
Any other comments? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Nancy
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the RFP to update the 2005 comprehensive plan and sign regulations in accordance with the village's strategic plan?
That's so moved.
Trustee Caprio,
Second.
Trustee Rogers, discussion. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, is there a motion to approve TRIA Architecture's proposal for schematic design services for future phases of Heritage Park in the amount of $72,650?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
A second.
Trustee Rogers, discussion.
You want to have Jim explain any of that to us?
We can, I just wondered if anyone here had any questions beforehand, so he has all the information that he needs before coming up to the podium. So if there's no other questions on it, Jim, you want to come up and explain what this is about? This is Mr. Petrakis from Tree Architecture.
Good evening, everyone. This is the proposal that was at 2 board meetings ago. We talked about doing the next phase for schematic design on the phases that we discussed. Right, phase 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to get a result of what we want 2A to look like, 3A, 4A, 5A, and 6A. If you remember, if you recall, they were all broken up into 2 phases.
Is that the same percentage you had in the initial budget?
It's the same percentage. The fee got edited because I took out, in the old numbers, was 151st Street sidewalk, so we took that out. But the numbers were 2018 numbers, so they reflect 2019 numbers now.
Legals reviewed this, right? I mean, it's the same.
Chocolate that's been done.
Matt, did you have some questions on this that you got answered, or did you have any questions on this as far as the park?
That's one of the questions that I asked Jim before bringing the proposal forward, was kind of how that, how the equation for the fee was brought about, including the total cost.
And you're
Jim addressed
comfortable with
that.
it?
Jim, all of these things that you're going to be building all or designing all of these phases, they're going to use what we're currently doing in the active core as far as the look and the feel of things, so that there will be some cohesiveness to all of these different phases. So even if we do phase 6 years down the line, it'll still tie into the master plan, right?
Yeah, that is the goal. With all the looks, the kind of the level finishes, the low, everything that we're doing. Again, a lot of the difference between, if you break up phases between A and B, like a 2A and 2B or 3A, 3B, some of those finishes are in the 3B, so they're later on. Some of the finishes are like the gates, the wood gates at each entrance. You know, some of those, we're trying to incorporate that in that, so somebody knows that this is the open play area. So he knows that this is the disc golf area, right, that you're identifying that, even though disc golf's not on this portion right here, but trying to continue that look, you know, that's out there right now throughout the whole park.
And this right now is just to give us prices of what each next step would cost us.
Yeah, from the July 25th board meeting, the workshop, everyone kind of narrowed it down. Remember, we had a lot more phases than this, kind of like the parking lots that were here on 151st Street and stuff. We said, nobody, don't even work with that. So these are the remaining phases that everyone said, let's talk about these here, which is phase 2, which is the open play area, phase 3, Sled Hill, phase 4, Village Hall, around Village Hall and in front of Village Hall. Activity area, phase 5 was the activity area, and then phase 6 was the fishing deck.
Well, don't we have the Sled Hill kind of done? I mean, I know there's some finishing touches to it, but
That was the whole idea. between the projects, between the 319 grant and the active core project, everyone kind of just piled on the dirt as much as we could, put it on there. We shaped it, we worked with the village and HR Green, said this is probably the shape we kind of want right now. They kind of graded it, mass graded it the way we want. But to make it the next level sled hill, as opposed to somebody just walking up the side of it. I was just in Wadsworth, Illinois today. They had fencing on the top that kind of directed somebody down the direction that they wanted to go. Because right now, if anybody went up there, you can kind of sled down all 4 directions. It's an oval. You try to guide them into the direction that you actually want. And then the intent is that since a sled hill is mostly just a winter item that's there, that if we can get some use out of it during the summer. So stairs, kind of like Swallow Cliff and Palos Heights, Palos Park area, where it's always used. People are working out, they're always walking up and down stairs and stuff like that. So just seeing what the next thing is to kind of clarify this, to make it cleaner. But one of the other items that was brought up in the July 25th meeting, I think, was getting parents and kids from this ring road all the way to the sled hill was the question. So we have a path that's kind of close, but there's nothing really directing you onto it directly. And there's just a little culvert in between it. So just doing the next level of looking at it and saying, what we can do to make this without putting in the cul-de-sac, right? We know there's a road in the cul-de-sac that's supposed to go in there in a future phase, but everyone discussed that we don't want to put in that road there.
I'd like to make a comment, Mayor. I think going forward, I mean, when we saw some staff memos recently, I think some of the trustees were a little surprised, like, oh, how did that get there? Where did this come from? So I know you have, there's a budget, a construction budget, but we're not seeing some of the individual items, or maybe it's shown as a picture, it's not approved possibly. You know, I mean, you're just showing certain, we're not seeing certain things until after the fact, they're just putting things out there. You know, going forward, like when I see attachment 2 here, it says open play. Everybody has different ideas what open play is, and then you put in soccer and baseball fields. Well, where is that coming from? You know, like, we have to get a little more details or a little bit more information, like when maybe that'll be shown, and that's maybe why this, you know, this design will be more clear.
For this project here, the intent was, because on July 25th, everyone kind of delved in a lot more questions, right? And more particularly it was like, okay, fishing pier. What is that? You know, we had a dollar amount in there. And everyone said, well, what does that include? Is that a floating pier? Is that a standard pier? Does it have lights? How many lights does it have, right? We were getting kind of deep in that. I was like, we don't know. We're just kind of doing some pre-design level estimates in terms of what we can get done for the dollar amount to do this. No different than we did for the active core. Once we got into the active core, we kind of narrowed it down, designed it, and so forth. This is the first phase of designing it, so we can kind of come back and say, here's what fishing pond can look like, here's what the open play can look like, yes or no, right? It's more information for the board to say, yes, go forward with this, take that one out, massage that one, turn that one over. For the open play specifically, you were saying, you know, no soccer and baseball. Open play was always for a pickup game of anything that was there. On the July 25th meeting, it was discussed to have some type of soccer fields and baseball fields, or a backstop for some use in there as opposed to being just general. The biggest concern was making sure that there weren't any divots or anything like that would break a child's leg or anything as they're running around playing soccer. So we wanted to make sure we leveled it, that it was there, but then the conversation went into, well, how many soccer fields can we fit on? What can we actually do in the future? So the idea for this project is, and I was telling the Matt, is I can design, and the board's direction was, design an area for just a graded area for one soccer field and one backstop. I can't just randomly place that. I have to look at the entire site and then come back and say, it may fit 4 soccer fields, but the best spot and the most inexpensive spot and whatever is going to be here to the north or to the south, or that third spot. I have to come back with that information for you to show that, and then have you decide like, yeah, go for it, don't do it in 5 years, do it in 10 years, don't do it ever, type of stuff.
And also, if I can add those totals on attachment 2, a further breakdown of those costs is included in attachment 3, kind of line by line item that was provided by TRIA from the July 25th meeting, and also discussed a little bit at the December 12th meeting. So that kind of has that's how those total costs are calculated, more detail on the earthwork costs and the pads and some of the amenities that are included. So if you look in attachment 3 for each of those phases, it includes a further breakdown of those costs.
So it would be nice to get breakdowns of what's going in and a price. So we know what is going in there, not just a figure of 1,300,000, or phase 5, $2.6 million. It doesn't really tell you anything that's going in there, so I want it to where if I look at this piece of paper, I know exactly what you're putting on the property.
Which page are you looking at?
Oh.
There's, I don't know if they have the tech in there.
Well, I'm looking right now, let's go, if you want to do it that way, let's do it 2A first. 1A and 1B is almost finished up, so we don't really have to worry about that.
So if you're looking at the actual pages,
If I'm looking at page 2 of 12 for the Heritage Park Phase 2 open clay.
okay, so you're looking at the
All right.
2 of 12, open play, removals, demolition, site protection, $30,000, site grading, excavation, $100,000. You see that, those line items?
Yeah, but you said 1A, 2.
We're on 2A.
1 is almost done, that's up there. Here, the only reason I say this is, you're looking at, or let's go to 3A and 3B for the sled hill.
Okay.
All right, because that's all it says is sled hill. On one line, it has $131, or $131,876, and then it says Phase 3 grand project total, $1,030,625.
I don't know what's in your packet. This is what you should be seeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
So you can see all the line items that are here.
All right, it doesn't say anything about what's going in. It says removal of demolition site,
Right.
side grading, side drainage, side paths, landscaping restoration, secondary gateways, site electrical infrastructure, site lights, street repair, curb cuts, access, site furnishings, general conditions, wayfinding signage.
Right.
So
That's all, that's for the sled hill.
I guess what he's saying is like, for example, like site furnishings. What is that? Like what are the site furnishings? This is what I'm thinking what George is saying.
Right.
I'm not.
If I remember correctly from July, we talked about, these numbers were actually higher back then on some of these issues. And we had brought some of those numbers down saying, there's no way we're going to spend that kind of money on these things. And that, if I remember correctly, and I think I do, this was TRIA's best guess without putting pen to paper in the design way to say, this is what we think this is going to cost. If you are okay with spending either $131,000 or the full $1,030,000, he'll design to that, then he'll know what his budget is to go out and buy what type of furnishings. So we're not at that point where we know which furnishings are going to be there, because if tonight we decided that, you know, that furnishings number needs to be $2,000, that's all he's got to spend. So instead of going to, you know, a higher end store, he's going to a lower end.
Site furnishing, there's no figure.
In 3A, right, so you can do 3A or 3B.
Right.
Okay, but like,
There's 7,500 in 3B. It's in 3B.
Okay.
the windshield.
Right. Not to pick this thing apart. All I want to do is I want to be able to look at it and know what I'm getting.
You will
If I
get,
get, you know, if for a baseball field, I know if we're putting a baseball field in there, where we're putting it. Because we always made a promise when we bought this place that it was not going to affect any of the neighbors that are around here, because that's what they wanted to do in the first place. We want to move something somewhere else in the park. That's an issue. What are you going to make the, what kind of field is it going to be? Is it going to be turf? Is it going to be astroturf? Is it going to?
It's a backstop.
It's
Just a
well,
backstop.
It was just a backstop on grass.
well,
that was the decision made in July.
all right, I've also heard that it could be up to 4 baseball fields. So, well, that's what he,
We have
otherwise
to,
he can do 1 or he can do the 4 if it'll fit.
He's
All I want
got
to do-
direction only to do one, but he's saying that if 4 could fit there, but if 1 logically fits in one area, that might preclude us from doing 2 later on, and he'll make us aware of that at the time. Say, if you take this one and take the cheaper route and put it here, you might be precluding yourself from putting 2 more there later on. Do you really want to do that?
Okay,
Well, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, to piggyback off what George was saying, for like 4B, it says amphitheater, restroom building. And this may have all been discussed at that one of the 2 meetings I was not at. So I don't know was there pictures, was there designs, what was the final, because I remember the amphitheater was like at one point 2.5 million, and now I'm seeing it for 1.3. So
The direction from the board in that July meeting is we're not doing amphitheater.
So the schematic design proposal doesn't include that amphitheater phase. It's for AB.
Okay.
If that,
It's not included in the,
Right, so we're not doing anything for the amphitheater. The board directed us not to even do anything for the amphitheater.
Right. Okay.
So if you go to the next one,
This is the line out.
4B, Village Green and Amphitheater, 5 is activity area, so that was included. So that is an area that is directly to the north and east of here just a little bit.
Okay, so we're doing 5B would be one of the ones we're doing.
5A, so the part of this process is, I have to, as a designer, look at 5A and 5B as a whole. I have to look at that entire phase as a whole, lay it out with your guys' comments, and because one of the comments, say for this one, was the mayor asked that that pavilion be moved closer to the street, as opposed to in the middle of where it's at right now. So we need to do that exercise and see if we can move that pavilion closer to that, to the street south more, and then come back to the board and say, here's our design, this is what we looked at.
For which phase, I'm sorry?
5.
5?
Yeah. So the goal is to look at 5A and B, so we're looking at the whole phase together, and then we're going to come to you and say, here's what it could be. This is what you've asked us to do a 5A. We think this is the first step, not Taj Mahal version of it. This is what 5A is. That gives you enough information to say, knock it down even more, or we're not going to do that project, or you know what, for if it comes up to another $1.4 million, we won the lotto, we want to do the entire phase, 5, do the entire phase. At least you'll see what it'll look like in the end. And we're trying to avoid things that, by listening to the board, we're trying to avoid painting ourselves into a corner. We want to make sure we lay out the entire site and everything together, even though you're working on one little piece, that everything's logically laid out, and then you can build upon it in the future.
So, I mean, I guess if the board agreed on these, phases, and they agreed on all this and the budget pricing, the next phase, because you're saying you have to go back and figure out what you can get for that price, right?
We're going to try to hit that. We're going to hit that. But this is just preliminary drawing, schematic, what we call schematic design. So we know your temperament of this. The board's temperament is just saying, now this 5A and 5B, if we can go back a step, this was your old village manager, Mike Martins, and I sat and said, instead of us doing a $2.5 million project, can we cut this down? Let's just do bare. We went through line by line. That's how you got 5A. So he cut that down with me and said, this is, I think, where the board would be comfortable doing. And then when we met in July 25th, the board was kind of like, well, give me some more information on what 5A really looks like.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. So that's why this proposal is on the table today for me to have consultants look at it, look at the engineering and so forth, and then say, this is what it really looks like. We knocked the price down by $100,000 because we went out there and looked at it, and the grading's not so bad.
Yeah. So, and I think you know where I'm going with this because we had a discussion before, but for example, like where it says like 5A, number 14, site furnishings and boiler accents. It says $75,000. Okay, I would like to know what those things are before they're started or before they're even put out there. Because if you're going to give me a boulder that looks like this for $75,000, we're going to be back here having the same discussion, right? Because you see what I'm saying? So I think that's what George wants to do, is see what things look like before they go out there. Or
and to answer that question, I think that was because of what we're calling the play apparatus, which is a tree apparatus at the active core, what that was and everything. And kind of everyone said, wait, where'd this thing come from? So there's 2 phases to that. One, we know that this project went quick. We have only a couple meetings to actually get this project done, to get out and try to get it done in the summer and so forth. Those items were actually presented. If we've gone into more detail on that, we probably would have been into a 5-hour meeting discussing that with everybody. But we had the committee of the whole and just said, you know, here's the items, please stop us if you see anything that's there. We can certainly, on this project, we're moving forward, meet with individuals, have committee of the wholes. We can make them as long as you want to explain all of the details of it. You just want to make sure that you'll, as a board, you'll probably never see every single line item, every single bolt in the project. I don't think you ever want to, right? Staff is probably going to see a lot more than you are. They're going to get more involved in that and looking at the drawings and getting into the details and everything. But anything from what does the electric cover plate look like, you know, on top of the bollards? What do the bollards physically look like? There's a lot of design decisions that are made that we can bring to the board, but there's a level that the board wants to look at, and then there's a board level that the staff wants to look at, and then there's all the other nitty-gritty stuff that the architects kind of go in.
So who is the nitty-gritty guy? Who's the guy that says this tree house is not worth this? Or who's the guy that says this plate cover should be, you know, $100, not $1,000? You know, who's that person?
That, for you guys, that falls on me, and that falls on, it actually falls on everybody, quite honestly, but it's for us. We had a budget. Our telltale sign is we had a budget of $3.3 million to say stay under that, right? You can get it way less than that, go to 2.6. We chose a 2.6 number. Said let's stick with 2.6. Bids came in at 2.6. So for what you're actually getting out there, we designed to that level to get you kind of a great park that, in my opinion, is probably going to be an award-winning park at the end of the day.
And I don't want to take anything away from you, Jim. You've been nothing but forward. You've been honest. You're great. You're always a phone call away. The park looks beautiful. I think it's going to be one of the most amazing parks that any village has seen in miles. I mean, I think you've done a great job. I'm just a penny puncher, and I like to know what I'm spending before we spend it. So I'd like to see, me personally, I'm speaking upon myself here, I'd like to see what something exactly looks like before we go and spend. I mean, come on, if you were like $1,000, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not $75,000. So it's, you know, something of that magnitude I'd like to see.
You are not asking anything that other boards don't ask.
Okay.
There are people, we had this issue here, Mayor, and we talked about replacing the roof right here, right? We kind of gave them an estimate of what we think a contractor would pay, you know, doing all that stuff, and it was just like, I got a guy who's doing it, we're getting it done, we got it done for a lot cheaper. You can do, there are things like that. We could have taken a lot of elements from that park and said, well, instead of it being, you know, Musco lighting, the big tall lights to light the court and really make it look nice, we're going to shorter lights, probably an off-brand manufacturer. We could have gone away from it, but it wouldn't have given you that level, that professional level of where you're at. So there's a lot of choices in a project, and on this one and in future ones. The goal is to have enough time to sit down and meet with you guys to go over all these line items. And I'll be honest, we're probably 5 months behind schedule on where we should be on this. So to get this going, I would want to do this and then come back and meet with you and go through the details of what we want. And it's schematic design level, so you won't sit there and you'll have a picture of what like a bench will look like, but not like the exact bench until we go into the next phases, schematic design development and construction documents.
And I take a lot of the fault on myself, because like I said, I wasn't there 2 out of the 3 committee of the whole meetings. I went and got pregnant, so I'm sorry. But now that I'm back in the game, I will focus more on the details.
Absolutely. We can do that.
And I wholeheartedly agree in the sense of what Christina's saying as it relates to the equipment that's going out there, understanding what that equipment is. You know, we give you a budget of whatever, we all agree on a budget of X. We want to know what tree house is going in there versus, you know, we know you're not going to go to Costco and buy a tree house. It's just not going to survive out there.
If you could get the price of Costco.
Right. And we try to do a lot of those.
So the commercial application, professional application is going to be totally different, so we understand there's enough terms to that.
So I will actually do a quiz here, because this was one that I thought of. Has everyone seen the challenge course that's out there?
Beautiful.
Right, it's great and everything. Any guess on what that actually costs?
What it actually costs?
400,000. 100 and close.
Right. Everyone has a different view of what these things are, because they're professionally made and they're there and it's a specific item. The thing was closer to $300,000.
But with the challenge course, we had a full presentation of everything that was going in there. I mean, we had slideshows and we went through each detail on the challenge course. That's the difference. If you were to tell me this tree house,
We showed pictures of the tree, that's what's hard for me is like, we showed pictures of the tree house where we didn't go through like, there's a tree house, and I'm calling it a tree house,
and that's the other tree too, we called it a tree
It's
house.
a-
and
it's a play
I was
apparatus.
a Tree house.
It's a play apparatus that looks like a tree, that has some tree, some natural parts that are.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is the stuff that is, like you said, it's going to be an award-winning park, and it's, it's certainly the jewel in our crown. And these are the types of things that are going to bring it to that level. We can all say that there's a hill out there right now, and you could theoretically sled on it, but the difference between just a natural hill, or even in this case, a man-made hill, and a planned hill that has multiple uses, that, they'll bring before us, and we can say yes or no, we want a stairway so that we can use it in the summer months. So, those are the things that's what we're paying for at this level, anyhow, at the schematic level. Just say, here's some ideas. Yes, you have a hill, and yes, you could sled on it for free right now, and not going further.
Trustee Gray, that sled hill is closed if it snows, so.
No, I know it's
people
closed
don't-
this year. I'm not saying this
Well,
year, and certainly would have to close down again in the future if we do any sled hill remediation. But I'm saying that this is what's the difference. If you walked out there through the active court, that is not like a typical park. I mean, that is things that, certainly us as lay people who are not in that business would not think of. And which brings me to my final point is, will Greenberg Farrell be consulting with you on your schematics for this? Because I think that is the dynamic that helped to make the active court a really, really nice project.
Totally agree.
So they will be consulting?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And after all that, I agree, the park is beautiful. But the park is also costing a lot of this. And with that being said, and then you're looking at the last page where you're saying if you wanted to complete all projects in 2019, you would spend $12,971,330,000 above and beyond what we've already spent. So, like I've said multiple times, I have no problem with getting this park finished as long as we find a way on how we're paying for it. So that's why we want everything done in detail, what we are getting for what we are paying. So we don't run into the last thing I ever want to do is have to borrow money to finish this park.
Absolutely.
So we spend it on what we have. So we need to get some more things in here to get us some more money because, and I'm also happy that the 3.3 budget that we didn't have, we came in at 2.7. That's absolutely great. Just because it's there doesn't mean we have to spend it on something else. But all I'm looking for is when I can look at a piece of paper, I don't have time to go to as many meetings as this village has. There's not enough time to do. But in a piece of paper, a phone call saying, here, we've got this, it'd be nice to get a heads up on some things. So.
Absolutely.
So, next would be, we need to vote. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy
Aye.
Motion carries. Next will be a workshop item. We're going to be discussing regarding potential removal of portions of the drawing up here. Do you have a drawing for the audience so they can see what we're doing? We're gonna get the trustees' opinion on some of this. I have gone over with most of the trustees where I would like to be with this fence right now. Mine is actually very simple. We put two gates to or two openings in the fence on the west side of the building to let them come through from the west to the east. And it would not be a drive-through, it would be a walkway through. The fence on the very bottom, I don't think it should be removed. You have a lake there that you also have a very large culvert there that if a kid went on a bike and went up the culvert and came back down, might not realize that the lake is right there. We also have our maintenance buildings there. I don't believe that should be open to the public because someone could get hurt. Parking lot on the lower corner is not there. That's for the future after we see what's going to go on with the park. So And there's one in the back, all the way in the corner, that would be probably off of Dixon if we did put something there. And that would be to just open it up to where people from the two subdivisions that are back there could get back into it without having to come all the way around the front. So,
So you want that one on the back corner?
no, I'm just saying that it's marked. That's one of the ones that they have marked to do something. Right now, there's no way to get to it unless they put some sort of a path through, and the only thing that's up there that could would be Dixon. Because all the people that I've talked to around the park, especially where your parents live, and I haven't talked to your mom and dad, but I've talked to a lot of people in there, they don't want any fence going through there because their big dilemma with going through that subdivision is there's not enough parking back there, and they don't want a bunch of residents walking between houses. So
That's Saddlebrook, that one's not even marked on this one.
no, I agree, but the back corner is still Saddlebrook.
No, there's
No, that's
that's
not-
Woodbine.
That would be west.
It's where.
Well, it ends
You're
right.
talking to the one that's right here, that's the one in Saddlebrook, that's on Dixon. This is the other one over here, that is the connection from Woodbine, west.
All right, well, that's at the opposite end of Dixon.
It doesn't even,
It dead ends in Saddlebrook
Yes.
at Dixon.
It's
Yeah.
not Saddlebrook,
Right.
it's just, that's like Dixon Lane is like just those
It's
individual
a right of-
properties. I don't think it's a subdivision.
Actually, it's a right of way.
But Coachman's is the last street in Saddle.
Coachman's.
I'm just looking at this where, because we took a
See, the thing is,
right.
right, on Dixon, is if you came in through Dixon, and I think those, to me, those entry points at the north end are probably when the combat easement comes through, you know, when we hook up the trail over there. But the Dixon, you'd be out on the street in Dixon, and you'd still probably have almost a block of trail that you'd have to go to the east, either along Woodbine West's, one of their retention ponds there, or there's a private property owner there, I think, I'm not real sure who's, I don't know what right-of-ways or easements we have.
What I was told is that we do own enough that we could put a path through. But what I'm talking about is just further east, because there's a large lot that's between two of the houses back there, and they're worried that first there wouldn't be any parking, and they're also worried.
That again is in Saddle, that's at up.
That's
That's not the corner one.
No, that's corner, that would be in the middle. There's no gate there right now, they just want to make sure we keep it that way. So, I mean, I'll put it out to all the trustees to give their opinions on this. I gave my opinion, I just.
why don't we pick one point at a time and then discuss it and then keep moving, just, start to do some.
Okay, well,
So why don't we start where the red is, where the
Okay.
fencing is?
all right, so how does everyone feel about so that would be 151st from,
Regional Ridge Drive to the parking lot.
correct.
That was one that I agreed with George on, that I felt like it was too much of a liability issue. I drove it again today, and it just drops right down. And my concern would be, with that new sidewalk that we're putting in there, kids, going off of it into that. And I also think keeping the maintenance things separate from 151st Street. I understand they'll have access from the back to it, but I think keeping it separate because they do have an entrance on 151st just makes that area a little more secure.
Also, we'll keep out the snowmobiles and four-wheelers and all that other fun stuff.
Easy. And I agree with Trustee Rogers.
I agree with keeping the fence line there and or a tree line to both, from a safety perspective, hiding that area, hiding the maintenance buildings, but also, I think I mentioned it to Trustee Gray, once that's done and the pond's there, I can see people pulling off the side of the road, just parking on 151st once it gets redeveloped to go fish in the pond, rather than going all the way to the parking lot. So then you get a traffic issue and other issues. That fence and or tree line should stay. It's just my fence.
So we all agree that
The
that
fence
one
should stay.
Well, not trustee Green.
Yeah.
Clearly.
You're outvoted, you don't count.
Look at it dry.
Next.
I know you'd like to, right up.
Next one would be,
We have 4 against 1.
But I still get to speak on why my name is on that, so I think I will. I don't like it personally. I don't like the fence there. I think it's an eyesore. I've walked that corner plenty of times from end to end. I get keeping the maintenance area separated. So I'd ask that maybe if you guys would go out and take another look at it and either consider maybe taking down a portion of it to either preferably the east side of the big trees that are there, the crab apples, I believe they are called, or to the west side of those apple trees. Keeping it all the way from Woodbine all the way over there. Now keep in mind, the sidewalk we're talking about, where that red line and the yellow line come together in the corner, there will be a poke-through area right there, which will bring the sidewalk inside of that fence. So kids and anybody else, and that's going to be a path. Presumably it would be a 5 or 8 foot wide path, so anybody on a snowmobile or an ATV or even a pickup truck could drive through there. So there still are entry points, and I get some of the concern about driving off the road, some of those ditches. My car wouldn't make it. I don't drive an SUV though, so like I said, I would ask that you guys consider maybe losing a portion of it. So.
Which portion?
Like I said, if you look at the red line where the trees are behind it, there's a kind of, if you've been out there, there's a row of like, a very long row of double apple trees there, which the sidewalk would be on the inside of that to the north. So maybe just from the trees to Heritage Circle, just to open up that a little bit more. So.
And before we go further, I mean, I was out there last week. All of the angled, and not to give staff any more work, but all of the angled brackets that were once holding the bar are going to come down. With that said, we have to put fasten, and I think I put in my notes here, there's got to be some sort of support, black, matching the fence, bar mechanism from post to post at the top of the entire fence. That doesn't belong to the associate or the homeowners communities.
Well, none of that does. There is a pole on that side.
Not at the top. I showed you. At the top of the fence, that's why the fence is curling, that's why it looks so bad.
Well,
Every black fence on this property does not have a top post.
Well, I did talk to John and Joe Weaver about replacing the black pipe at the top with the cap.
That's okay.
Get rid of
Keep this. It's
So yeah, we'll
exactly,
talk about this.
we're talking about something. So I'm just mentioning that because as we go forward, as it looks for today, it would look straighter and much tighter and cleaner in a future.
and that includes the one on 150.
That includes the
John, can that be done?
Right now, the top support of the fence is a heavy cable that goes across, and it goes through those bars that you're talking about. So we would have to undo that cable around the entire park to take those tops off, put a different top on that would support that cable, and because the top of the fence, why there's no pole there now, is because the top of the fence is secured on that heavy cable. It's tied to that heavy cable.
I'm not a fence guy, so.
Neither am I. I'm just letting you know what's up there. So to get those arms off, we would have to have that cable pulled out, take the arms off, put a different top on, and then restring that cable through.
Well, where can you put a bar?
Or you could put a bar along the top of the fence instead of, in lieu of the cable. And then you just wrap that top of that fence around.
Well, that's
bars.
Right. And that would make it, that would
Like
dress
your yard fences, you have chain link in a yard, same thing they do there.
Yeah. All right, well, it's something that we can
Just to
look
give
into,
you some
just to find out exactly what it is.
I just thought I'd throw that out there because the fence is going to look ugly. The black fence doesn't look right.
All right, so the next one, Keith, are you all set?
So
Next
what
one
are
would
we
be
doing with it?
We're, right now, leave it alone, that's what the trustees already said, so we're not going to do anything with it right now. The next one would be the fence that is on the west side of the golf course that butts up to the library. And before we even discuss that, because there's no sense in discussing it at all right now until we talk to the library and find out if they're okay with it. Because here's the situation. We don't know how the library feels about it. I already know how the township feels about it. They don't want the fence to go away, and we were told that it's very possible that if we take the fence down, they're just going to put the fence back up. So.
But my understanding, what I had told staff is, I'm not, when it comes to this north-south none of my intention was to remove it. My intention was just to give gate access. I'm not saying take it down.
No, that's, right now, that is one of them that's circled for the reason to take it down. But
Right, but so when my name's on here, on these two different spots, I just want you guys to know, I'm not advocating taking down the whole fence. I'm saying just make sure kids can ride their bikes through to get to the park.
yeah, you're looking for openings.
Open.
Yeah, and we already have one there, which is a full length of the fence between two poles. And, well, here, as for the one for the library, I don't even want to discuss that until we talk to the library to see what they're doing, what their ideas are. Then we can always come back and address it to see if it's, because all it would be is an extension from the very edge of the, not the very edge, probably half a block past the library up to 151st Street is what's circled right now. So we can check to see if they feel it should be open or not, and then we can discuss that one. The next one to the north is the opening that we have there right now. You still could, I don't know if you could put a car through there, but that one was put in for when a football tournament was out there. They asked us if they could get an opening so they could get from our parking lot back to there, because it was also a homecoming and they had a lot of people coming through, and it would just make it easier for them. So at that time I asked Mr. Robinson to open up the gate for them so they could use it, and we could also see how that did work out. It worked out great for them.
Who asked for that, the sports
The sports
facilities
group
or the
called,
township?
no, the sports group called us and said they have a homecoming there, they want to park on our side of the property. They want to know if we could get an opening in the gate so they didn't have to walk all the way down and come all the way back up, because a lot of them there too, the young ladies who were supposed to be dressed in like homecoming clothes, and that's not what you want to do, is be running through the grass. So we open it up for them.
But is there a gate there to secure it at
No.
night? That's
No, but
what
we
I was
could-
thinking we need.
But yes, and there I agree with you too. It's an opening right now for them to get back and forth. If we leave it open, you'd still have to put some balance in there, because otherwise it is definitely wide enough for a snowmobile, for a quad, anything to go through it at that point. And
Or
then,
a gate that somebody has to close each time, which is a pain.
Yeah.
it is, but it doesn't mean you have to have it open all the time.
Right now, it's just a roll
If there's no
fence.
functions,
Right.
you could go a little bit further down.
But I know you say it's a pain, but there are like nightly things that they do every night, you know, and it's more just something like the Forest Preserve, they come in and lock it in the morning and they lock it at night. I think it should be secured at night, just because I know, you know, we did say it's open and there's a road there and stuff, but I think we'll just make it a little bit more secure for people who go out in there in the middle of the night. I mean, yeah, they could jump the fence, I get it, but I think just, you know, it's,
All they really have to do is just go to the front of the grass when there is no fence.
Right.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I mean, bollards to keep out mechanized traffic if you want, but
Well, I don't even know if you
I mean,
need,
it's, we're wide open to the front.
I don't know if I want balance anywhere across the front, because then you're making it look like a stockade. The only reason I would run it further, are you talking where the gate, where the opening is right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I wouldn't like a gate that we would have to physically go out and close and bar every night or open every morning. A bollard that we can pull down if John's trucks needed to get through there, but with.
They could unlock that and put that back.
They,
Yes.
they needed access.
Collapsible. And then the one now just a touch further north, that is basically between the baseball fields on the east side of the complex. So you have a partial walkway there already, but it does not go all the way to the fence. There was no need to go to the fence because it went nowhere. So we would have to talk to the township to make sure they're comfortable. Is that the path already set up for the, and it's set up to go through the township?
It's not really a path, it's a beaten path on the grass back there. It goes between the two baseball fields as well as where the pitcher's warm-up cage is down the center.
Correct.
So it's a logical place to walk back there, and there's nothing keeping you from going back there. Whether they encourage somebody to go back there, I don't know. So that one in particular, the second one to the north, that would require, I don't know what it would require on the township side. I mean, when it comes down to this, I know we're trying to be good neighbors and we can take down anything we want. If they want to put up a fence, that would be silly, I think, and folly. we're supposed to be serving the residents here and letting them go back and forth in a well-defined and non-chaotic way, which I think this addresses. But it would require maybe the township on their side, beefing up the way that path is, putting in stone or crushed stone or something. On our side, it would require the same thing. Our walking path does not go all the way to the fence, like you just mentioned, so we would have to then extend a little bit of a path. It's about 100 feet maybe, if that, to the fence line.
There would be grading issues on our side because that's where when the golf course was here, they had that dirt pile there and they had branch piles there, and there's also drainage on the township side. There's like a swale there where it's
a little bit
drainage.
south of that.
Right.
Because you're right, if you were to come straight out between those two ball fields,
Right.
that is not the best place to go up into the village property. It's actually a little
The other
bit
spot,
south.
the other spot where we have the temporary opening, if we move like 4 panels north, that's actually a good alignment between the football field and the baseball
Yeah,
field.
right behind the goal post,
Yeah.
between the light post and the goal
A
post.
little bit where the big opening is right now, the fence is peeled back. He's talking more and more over. What you would be is you would be right between you'd be between two football fields. And if that was the case, you're getting much closer to the one you have between the two baseball fields.
Right.
Well, I think that the one where it's at right now works because it opens up into the parking lot.
Yeah, the other one where...
If you went core to the north, but it's still open up.
If we went 4 panels farther north, which is 30 or 40 feet, that would still be by the parking lot, but it would line up better, because right now where it is, it lines up with like the 10-yard line on the field.
Right.
And there was concern that people would come walking straight through and walk across the field.
And that's.
Can you just direct the path on our side towards that location?
Well, that location right there opens up right onto the pavement, if I remember.
It's,
Right,
yeah,
I'm
it's
saying
within,
put in
yeah.
a gravel path on our side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, but
We would just have to do a curb cut for handicapped access, but that's...
And we'd also have to do a curb cut there, no matter what we do.
Right.
To lower that curb so people can walk freely without jumping over a curb.
And I think the township is okay with the discussion of opening, and they just want to be notified. I know she does not, I shouldn't say she, the township, a representative from the township does not want the whole fence removed, but that representative said that they were willing to have a discussion and be neighborly. So I know it's ultimately our decision, but it would be nice just to inform them or get their opinion on it, because they may have some knowledge that we don't know about.
Oh, we would definitely have to get their opinion.
And you also got to make sure that they know that if there was a cost, that it would be on them, it wouldn't be on us. So I agree with what pretty much everyone here said. And Keith, I did not go to the middle of the two baseball fields to see how the property was there. I did see where John had opened up the fence for them for homecoming last year. And if it's on the 10-yard line, so you got the 10-yard line and you got 15 yards, you've got the room to actually make it between, and the parking lot will still be there. So they might have to walk about a couple of feet in grass, but that's probably the extent of it. Then they could be right in the parking lot of the village. So that way no one would have to incur any kind of a cost on it. Because if they decide to do something between the football fields, which I don't know if they would, because then you have to worry if it's not asphalt, if they're doing it gravel, are they going to be getting the gravel kicked in the football field all the time? So that's something that maybe you and me could sit down with the township. I think it would be a good idea. Okay. All right.
Sure.
And then this way we can get it locked in to where we're looking at it. So the two places that we want to look is by the library and then by the separation of the two football fields. Up in front, I have no problem. Right now, with the way I looked at it, I would like to do the fence up, but I have no issue taking a walk over with you. You show me what you're actually talking about, and if it makes sense, I'm on board too. But the way it is right now, what scares me is that lake, and I don't like the idea of our sheds, our work area being open to the public. Because for everyone out there that can see the picture, the parking lot that's at the bottom of the red line is not there right now. We don't need to put it in right now, so there's no sense in spending the money. So it does not exist. But the two buildings there do, the pond does, and we're still looking to put more buildings up in the area where we have our two buildings now.
Okay, so that last circle all the way to the north by where Woodbine is.
On the corner? Well, that thing what we'd have to do is first of all find out what is ours. Is there something that we can pull through? Then, if that's also the case, I'd like to see where we're pulling it through. Because the last thing I want to do there too is screw anyone that's in Woodbine West. If everyone does decide they want to pull through there, or if we want to make it a bike path only, but they still can walk through, are they going to start pulling Woodbine West and parking on their streets?
Well, that was brought up to our parks meeting. There's some residents that want a fence, an opening, or whatever, and there's some that don't. So it's like a pretty much 50-50. And John actually lives right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm John Walters. I'm the president of Woodbine West Estates Homeowners Association, and also on the Parks Committee. And at Christine and Bress' suggestion, when we had our annual meeting, we discussed this. And the consensus was is we don't want the opening on Dixon Lane opened up into the park. We came to consensus that we'd rather use our bike path that we already have going into the township property, and then coming through the opening that's either already there, or the one John was talking about 4 panels over, or even the one Keith was saying between 2 ball fields. But to access the park through the township property and not have the opening on Dixon Lane because of the parking that would cause. We had a big long discussion about it, so. And that was at our annual meeting in September.
How many residents were there?
There's 107 homes.
How many were at the meeting?
Oh, about 10.
Did you talk to any of the other ones?
I mean, we have as many people who don't want it, we have people, same people who do want it. And when we presented this plan, it always said future access. So, you know, these people, like, when are you opening? And remember the one that came with Trista, like,
That's why it
said
said
future access here, it's future access.
Those were some of the people that came to the meeting, and they would, when they talked to the people that didn't want the access because they were afraid of the amount of people that we'd have parking in our neighborhood, they were satisfied with the opening in the township property.
So can you show us on here where they were saying they wanted it?
It's basically the one, either that John was talking about, several, that's the Dixon Lane one. They're talking about, where you have circle on here.
The one down here.
But
He's not on either one.
either the one that's open now, the people were happy with, because they just go in using our bike path into the township property, or the other suggestion that was at our meeting was between the 2 ball fields, like Keith was talking about.
I like having 2 there because, you know, you have football season, you have baseball season, as well as you have residents who are a little further to the north.
People who pick up and drive.
Right.
The one John was talking about, like 4 or 5 panels down, almost goes right into where the walking path is already right now.
It does, correct. But that's not the one between the baseball fields, that's the one that's between the football fields.
It's between the football post and the light post. Correct.
So the people that were coming to the Parks meeting, they're now okay with it this way, right?
The people that came to our association, oh, yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. She's, the ones that came to the Parks meeting are, when we had the big discussion, they were there at the association meeting, and they were satisfied with this compromise.
And John, just to be clear, what you're suggesting is like a share the lane markings or whatever along Dixon Lane, around, it turns a little bit, and then you pick up that interior pathway that's in your subdivision that people would be, because that would be inviting the public, you know, anybody coming from the north on Dixon now would be able to go on to, you know, if we're going to share the lane, we're going to avoid opening up that, you guys would have to discuss whether or not, you know, how
They're already coming through our access to the township property for ball games. They're already
Well, I
parking.
know there are signs there that say private parking. Things like
Yeah,
that.
right now they do say private park, no trespassing or something to that effect. But it doesn't stop anybody from parking on Rathfarn and coming into the ball games. Or they use it as a pickup spot for kids at the games. They'll drop them off there and they'll pick them up there because then they avoid all the traffic. But the residents that live on Rathfarn don't want any parking restrictions, so.
So what was our,
So the corner one is
All right. So basically, by this
The
picture,
two in the middle.
we're gonna work with this one. So this one, I'll talk to Pam.
No, we said don't worry about this.
No.
This one. Yeah, the.
Let me get a short one. No offense.
He's the one that's good.
All the
Yeah,
yellow.
we got this one.
You're gonna walk
I'll
around
take this
with
one, I'll take go walk with Keith. And then this one will move up forward. And this one I'll still ask her about to see if it's good between baseball.
And did we decide just opening no gate, right? Opening
That would be my preference.
I would say a ballot at least. So you can't drive through it.
Or, wait, the gate you close during the winter, it's supposed to be going through there in the winter, right? That's what you're saying with that.
These people are walking their dogs in the morning too, that are coming out of work on West, so this is not just for,
In the winter, they're gonna walk the dogs all the way over this way.
and just walking in general.
Dedicated dog walker.
Just walking in general, not necessarily the dog.
Well, John, even from a facilities perspective, wouldn't it be, where's John, he left? From a facilities perspective, if we're gonna make these pathways and they're large enough to drive a gator or whatever down, it's good to have a collapsible bollard that you can still get through, right?
Well, we could use the same style bollard that we used out there that, with the, where it pulls up out of the
Right, but I'm saying
ground.
the width of these paths must be large enough to fit a small truck slash
We
gator.
drive, yeah, we take the pickup trucks through the, there's a 6x6 on each side with the bollard in the middle. When we drop the bollard, it's 8 feet wide, so.
But are you gonna be driving a pickup truck?
No, not through there, but I meant on the trails when we maintain our trail
Okay,
system.
so you're not gonna be driving a truck through the.
No, not through there, no.
Okay, so we don't need a space big enough for a truck on these two.
Well, some of these new UTVs are as big as.
But you want,
But we don't want
you
that.
want still a ballot.
Yeah.
He's asking to drive a truck back and forth. You're not gonna allow it to be a dirt truck.
You might have a situation where you have an accident on 151st Street, and first responders need to get to them, they're gonna take the path of resistance, so, yeah, let's make sure we can, you know, they might not get their fire truck through there, but they can certainly get a small response vehicle. So,
Path of least resistance can be done, be first right to them.
but if there were an accident or something blocking them up here, they could, I mean, they'll know about these openings, certainly, and they're gonna take it, you know, they're gonna go.
They came up during the festive season.
Yeah.
You can plan for prevention, just don't under-plan for the size of it.
All right, so we do know what we got, and then Keith, if it's okay with you, I can do it with you this weekend.
Sure.
By the time I get back here from work, it's 2:30, I can see. So,
I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it's going, yeah.
okay.
So we're taking down everything in yellow? I'm just thinking.
I think you'll make about one house, and also you're gonna hear it thick.
So,
All right,
we're not really giving any direction at this point, right, because,
I'll find out tomorrow from,
well,
I'll find out tomorrow from the library, and I'll call and see if we can sit down with the other ones to get that. John just got to tell us that we're not worried about the back end of it, so we don't have to worry about the back end of it. Fred and you and me will take a walk, and then we can go out with John Robinson and take a look to see if that 3 or 4, so we can extend it out to, is still within the area that we're looking for tonight.
okay.
All right? Okay, so that's done. Okay, next, is there any old business? Is there any new business? The next is executive session. Is there a motion to go into the executive session for purposes of discussing I don't have an issue. So it is discussing regarding personnel, removal of personnel, we already got that motion. And then action on executive session items. Personnel. All right. All right. Any second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We will be coming back after